This first one here does give you that top level view, okay? We can go out and just get a contract to buy a house from a seller, and then we can assign that contract to the person who's ultimately going to buy the property. This is the business of wholesaling property. Now, there's other ways of wholesaling where you will simultaneously close, meaning you'll actually close on the property and sell it at a great discount just to get it sold right away. Maybe it needs a lot of repairs. You're not going to do any of the repairs. That also could be considered wholesaling. And it's a very popular method of introductory real estate. Now, aligned with that is the idea of everything that you see on TV, all the reality shows, right? The fixer-uppers, the houses that you can buy at a deep enough discount where once you've done the repairs and you've paid the financing cost over time and you've paid the buying cost, the closing cost of buying and the closing cost of selling and the cost of a realtor, there's still enough room in there for a profit because you've sold it to an owner-occupant buyer who's qualified for a loan. That's the fixer-upper business. That's the stuff you see on TV, even though a lot of the stuff you see on reality TV with respect to real estate has no basis in reality or real estate. But some of them do. So the point is that is one of the strategies that you can deploy. But what I found is as that method has really gained a lot of traction in terms of popularity, we are seeing people paying way too much for property and getting way too little in profit. So these first two businesses, if you will, the business of wholesaling property and the business of renovating and retailing or doing fixer-uppers, has become very competitive. And there's other things that I don't like about it also, like you only get one payday, which we're going to cover. Now, the next one we're going to talk about, and I'm going to go through these in more detail, is taking over payments. That's generally when there's a loan on the property and there's not very much equity in the property, and we just get the seller to agree to let us take over the payments because they want the debt relief on the property. A lot of people call that taking over property subject to the existing loan. One of my favorite ways of buying real estate for a variety of reasons that we'll get into. Sometimes the seller has no loan or a smaller loan on the property, where we ask them to take their equity, which is the difference between the value of the house and what's owed on it. We ask them to take their equity not in one lump sum of cash when we close, but as a note and mortgage where we will make monthly payments with the house as collateral, meaning if we don't pay them, they keep the house. But we make them monthly payments, sometimes with interest, sometimes without. But there are advantages for sellers who are willing to sell in that way. And there are certainly advantages for us as a buyer when we buy in that way. We'll talk about that. Sometimes the seller does not want to deed you the property because there is a loan on the property, or because they are afraid that if they deed you the property, you won't pay and they will have to foreclose. In those instances, we'll generally fall back to trying to get the seller to agree to lease us the property, to rent the property to us, but give us an option to buy it during the term of the lease. That is a lease with a purchase option. Other times, you might see a for rent by owner where the owner is willing to rent, meaning they are willing to rent the property to you, but they don't really want to sell it. And if they don't really want to sell it, but we can get a good enough rental on it, and particularly if it's an area that lends itself well to short-term rental or Airbnb, we can get a rental price from the seller, or not the seller, but the landlord, so to speak, and we can get the right to sublease it, let them know what we intend to do, and we can make tremendous cash flow, the difference between what we have coming in each month from the various tenants that we will have in there and what we're paying out each month to the landlord. And it doesn't even have to be short term. It can be a longer term. For example, you could get a lease, but you get a lease with an option to buy. Say they want a crazy price, okay? But you can't get them to come down on the price. but you got a pretty good monthly rental on it. Well, just do the lease option. You don't have to exercise your option. Once you have the lease option, then go out and do short-term rental or rent it for as long as you can. Don't exercise your option, and you'll make that cash flow spread each month. All kinds of things that we can do. You also can have a conversation with the seller about what the best they can do is across these various options. And if none of it is especially attractive to you, we just take the terms that the seller is willing to give us, the best that they're willing to give us, and we agree with them. Cool, let's do it. If you're willing to do that, let's write it up. The only condition I have is that I need 90 days to close because the terms you want are very rich. You've done an excellent job negotiating this. And I don't want to close until I find my buyer for our deal because you want too much money, or you want too much monthly, or you want too short a duration, or you want too much down. If you have to have those metrics, then I just want enough time. I'm not saying I'm going to use all 90 days, but remember, I'm not going to live in the house. I want enough time to find my buyer without my back being up against the wall. Those we call 90-day closes. I'll go into more detail on that. And then for those of you who are realtors on here, Jasmine, Joel, for those of you who are realtors on here, very smart to have the realtor license, because all of the people who don't do any of the things that I just mentioned, if they're not open to any of that stuff, folks, that means they're fishing in one pool of real estate buyers. That pool of real estate buyers is filled with people who are going to live in the house, are willing to pay retail price, are qualified for bank loans. And as a result, every realtor and their mother, but every realtor has gone out and snatched up those buyers, attached themselves at the hip, and said, hey, I'll drive you around in my Cadillac, take you to Starbucks for free, and treat you like royalty, and I'll show you all these houses, and I'll organize the escrow for you, and I will deal with the mortgage broker for you, and I will make sure that you're protected, and I will deal with the inspections, and I will deal with the appointments and all the scheduling, and you can go on with your life as you know it, and guess what? It costs you zero. Very, 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 very few buyers who are in that pool that I just described are not going to take advantage of that when it's free to them. So what does that mean for the seller? That means if the seller isn't going to do any of the things that I just described we can do for them, they are left with having to pay a commission on the sale of their house that is not chump change, because the prices of houses are up pretty high in terms of the dollar value of that commission. The average house in America, not average, the median price of a house in America is $450,000 right now. That means that paying a 6% commission on that to a realtor, you're looking at what, 25 grand, a little more than that, right? A 3% commission even is more than $12,000. So because of that, having that license available to tell the seller that I can help you out because you're fishing in a pond where you're going to need representation is something that can benefit that seller because you'll be protecting their interest, but you'll also be getting a commission on it.